It was tall. It had a silhouette of a human. A very, very, very big human being. My sister and I were terrified because we knew it was not a man. Nothing could be that big. I think it was Bigfoot, Sasquatch. I know there's something out there. There's a newer theory about Bigfoot that instead of being a cryptid here, he's an interdimensional creature.
It just disappeared in thin air.
It was being so hard that it actually shook the walls. I could hear something walking, but I couldn't see anything. I was afraid that whatever was in the woods was coming closer to my house.
In Louisiana, a Luguru is a werewolf. So that's the devil's world right there.
Hey, you just said, Jackie, I saw Bigfoot.
Made me more aware of what's really around us. You know, like I said, I believed before, but now I know that they exist. They're there in the woods with us.
Imagine having something happen to you that's life-changing, and you can't tell anybody, and expect them to believe you 100%.
It was a triangular-shaped object.
There's proof that alien life forms are already here on Earth.
I don't think anybody in Luzon has seen anything like this. I looked back and I saw it. It was very muscular and very menacing. And this is something I never want to see again. I don't know what she stared at. She was just looking there. She was just terrified. This thing just looked like a giant ape. And it was just looking at me. And I couldn't move. I was frozen. I was so afraid. I couldn't move. We weren't going to make it down the hill. I didn't think we were. I really didn't. There are things out there that you've never seen before. There's things that happens out there. Things you will hear. Things you will see that's unexplainable.
Made me realize that, you know, we're not alone. We're not alone.
Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Lisa Leach. Welcome to Cryptids Unlimited podcast. Today, I have a couple of people with me. Heather, who is one of our Bigfoot and female friends of the South. She's here, and we're going to be speaking with John Vandeventer, who lives in Oklahoma, and he's a 16-year veteran of the Air Force. He's wrote his first novel, Relics, back in 2017. And now he's a full-time author. He has 2 complete series, Relics, the adult fiction. There's 3 parts to that. And then the Shadow Chasers, the young adult fiction series. So he's really kicking it. And I'm going to let him go ahead and tell you where you can find him. And then we'll kick off the show. Welcome to the show, John and Heather.
Hey, thank you, ladies.
Hello,
Thank you for
everybody.
having me on.
I'm glad you finally decided to come on the show.
Well, all it took was an invitation. If you wanted me to get the info on my books out, so we get that out of the way,
Yeah, I do.
you can find my books at www.relicsbook.com, and I'm also on Amazon. And thank you for the intro. Yes, I have a series, based mainly on Bigfoot, the first 3 book series, but I'll throw some other stuff in there to keep the excitement up. And then the youth series, which I'm getting as many adult fans on my youth series as I am getting youth. So, and it's called The Shadow Chasers. And I'm about to release another book. It's kind of a standalone, but I think it's going to end up being a series too, because I've had to use some of the Relics characters in it. And it's called The Channeling, and it's different. It's way different. It's not Bigfoot based. It's more of a UFO story. So
Cool,
I
yeah.
appreciate you letting me make a plug, and thank you for having me on.
I had heard that you were working on a book, something about the channeling or something like that. So yeah, I'm anxious.
Yes, very exciting.
Yes, I love
Well,
that you.
thank you. This one's
John's
been
books
fun to write.
are fiction, but based on real stuff, right, John? Real
Yeah, what I
experiences
did, I never intended to be an author. It was never on my radar at all. And a friend kind of talked me into doing a Bigfoot short story, and it's kind of a long story, but he couldn't participate. He started, and then my sister encouraged me to keep going with the story. Sorry, I'm making a cup of coffee and it's squelching here. And so I decided, okay, if I'm going to do this, I was always a UFO guy since I was a little kid. I was always interested in UFOs, and I always thought Bigfoot was a neat subject, but I didn't know anything about it. So man, I just went on a crash course on Bigfoot, and it took about 2.5 years to write the first novel. And I started listening to things like Sasquatch Chronicles and guys like uh, Lance Hightower. He used to have a different show. I started listening to that, but anything I could find on, I was listening. Anything I could read. I read David Paulides' Tribal Bigfoot and the Hoopa Project, and then I ran across his missing 411 stuff,
Yeah.
and so I kind of added that element into the very first book. And what I did was I just researched sightings, encounters, and I took the things that people had witnessed and the behaviors people had seen and things like that, and I used them in the book, in the first book, and it was a big book because I wanted to include everything. I had the Men in Black, the government cover-ups, military operations, things like that, and it ended up being a huge book. Now it is big, but I have people that will text me and say, "Hey, man, I read your book in like 3 nights," and I'm appreciative of that. And then, um, my sister and some others were encouraging me to write a sequel, and I thought, well, I'll just make it a trilogy. So I managed to tie in the Bigfoot UFO experience kind of a little bit together. I don't have Sasquatch flying saucers or anything, but I make a connection and carry the story on through 3 books. So it's been a lot of fun writing it, and I've learned a lot, and it's been exciting, to kind of be part of the Bigfoot community. And I've had the chance to meet like Ron Moorhead, Scott Nelson, MK Davis, Lyle Blackburn, Ken Gerhardt, and people like that. So it's been really exciting. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, you meet
Yeah.
a lot of great
We've
people still.
Yeah.
yeah, since we've started doing this, we've met so many interesting people. It's just crazy with the same mindset and ideas as you have.
Right.
It's been pretty cool.
Well, there's some really interesting reports and sightings, and I've gone out in the field a few times. Now that I live here in Honubby, to go out in the field, I just walk out my door. So
Yeah.
that's kind of nice. But I've been to Arkansas, done the Sabine River in Texas, did Brown Springs. So it's been fun to get out and stuff. But now that I quit my day job and I'm writing full time, I don't get out as much because, kind of strapped to the computer trying to pound out books. So,
Oh, yeah.
um,
I kinda quit my day job for this, so we're gonna
well,
see
you
how
know
this.
what? That it's a leap of faith, and it's exciting to do, but it's also a little scary. So,
Yeah,
um,
it takes a lot of work. People think you can just jump into a podcast and just start podcasting, but no, you got to buy
uh,
equipment,
well, it's funny too when you become your own boss. I figured out I don't like this boss any more than I like the other ones.
I know, right?
Because I'm my own. Hey, you should be writing right now. Yeah, I know, but there's a flat to fix, there's a yard to mow. Well, you should be writing. So, and I'm one of those people too. If I got something I got that needs to be done, like the other day, I was sitting here working on the book, and I glanced up from the window, and I'm looking at the grass. I'm like, I am not going to be able to write till I mow that grass. Yeah,
So how do you do your writing? Do you sit down in front of a computer or you do it by voice recording or what do you do?
I type it in on the computer. And it's funny how fast I can type now.
Yeah, I
Because
bet.
I remember I never took typing or anything like that. Now, if I had to use a typewriter, oh man, I don't know how people used to do it.
Uh,
It would take me forever. But I learned, like the first book, there's quite a few typos because I didn't understand the editing process that well, and I'll just admit it to you. I slept a lot during English class coming through high school. So, but I'm learning. Each book gets better. It's better quality, and now I've got a system down where I type it. I do my own editing now since I can't afford one, but I've used stuff like Grammarly, and then I go back and I listen to the book and then read at the same time, and that's helped a lot.
Yeah.
And like I had to learn not to write in a passive sense and not to write like I talk, and that's a little challenging, but it's coming together good. It's been fun. It's
Oh,
been a learning experience. So
well, I just dove into the writing a book thing, and I actually wrote a book, and it's currently still being published. But I
well,
discovered.
congratulations. That's a big thing. That's a big thing.
Thank you. It's called A Product of Bigfoot, and it's just about how it's an autobiography about how I became who I am. And it was because of a sighting with Bigfoot when I was a kid. And I guess that left me more open minded than most people.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's how this all came about for me. Was the friend I had that wanted me to write the story in the first place. He had a sighting in Florida. And remember when he told me about it, I was really shocked because I thought they were all in the Pacific Northwest. I didn't know anything about it. In fact, to tell you how ignorant I was of the issue, probably still am, like I am, because I don't believe in experts in Bigfoot. I think, we won't know until we have one to look at.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I remember when I was a kid, The Legend of Boggy Creek came out. I think it was about 11 or 12, and I watched it. And all these years, and still I started researching to write Relics, my first book. I didn't even associate Boggy Creek with Sasquatch. I just thought it was some kind of swamp monster. Never really thought about it. It was just an interesting movie when I was young. And then when I started researching for the books, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. So
Yeah, and that's the way we thought about it too, and our family was, not living very far from Fouke, Arkansas at the time, but we didn't even watch the movie till later. We were country bumpkins. We didn't
yeah,
we didn't have a theater, but, when I finally did watch it, I still thought it was just a movie about a monster in Fouke, Arkansas, and then later in life, I discovered, "Oh, that's a true story." And that's not far from, where my family had their
right.
experiences, so I was like, "Oh, okay. Now this
Well,
makes sense."
yeah, and it's funny when I started looking for a location for my novels, I ran across episode 11 of Sasquatch Chronicles, Siege at Honubi, and I started figuring out, well, man, that's not far away, So I was like, well, I'll use that, and I came down and looked around. And I said, well, I need a police department, this and that, so I ended up using Tallahena, and but I never knew this stuff was down here. And then, funny thing, after I wrote the first edition of Relics, I used Pam's Hateful Hussy Diner as a scene a lot, and that's an actual diner in Tallahena, and Pam really exists.
I have
And
been.
I'd asked her permission to use the restaurant as a scene, in the book. And so I took her book, and we were driving back, and we came back through here, and we stopped this little overlook about a mile from the house here up on the mountain, and just thought, wow, how beautiful, this and that. And the company I was working for at the time, I was a copier tech, and we picked up all the Choctaw casinos, all their printer and copier service. So we were coming up here to fix them, the techs, and we all lived in Texas. So it was quite a drive. And I happened to just hear the president talking to the service manager saying, we need a tech in Oklahoma. And I just came to a dead stop and said, well, I'll move up there, because I fell in love with it up here. So that's how I ended up in Honubi in 2018.
And
And
you're
it
practically in the heart of the Bigfoot.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it was a good move. Funny thing too, I think the picture was in the first edition of Relics, and now I think it's in Relics 2, the Honubi remnant. There's a picture of me standing by the little sign out here that says Indian Highway Home of Bigfoot. You guys probably saw it when you were through
Yes,
here.
yes.
And it was New
We
Year's
saw a
Eve.
lot. We
Yeah,
saw a lot right through there.
Well, it was New Year's Eve
Actually.
2016 when I had the photo taken of me by the sign because I was going to use it for the author's page. And I had no idea that 18 months later I'd be living 500 feet from that sign. So it's just weird how things work out, you know?
Well, Heather's referring to what we saw a lot of. We called you once when we were up there and asked you about going up on this old trail up on the mountain to get,
Yeah.
and you told us not to do it,
Yeah.
and we ignored your advice. We went up there anyway, and
Typical women.
yeah, typical women. But
We did not listen at all.
I'm gonna let Heather tell a little bit of this story to you.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Uh, yeah, we were sitting there, and after we talked to you, and I was talking to Lisa, and I was like, I don't know, Lisa. He said probably shouldn't do it, and she was like, he's just underestimating us. I think he just thinks we're a bunch of dumb women. And I was like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, let's do it. So,
Hold my beer.
yes. So we do it. And by the time I'm like, man, I think we should turn around. There is nowhere to turn around.
Yeah.
It's either go forward or try to back down, and that wasn't happening either.
No,
It
that's the
was it was
we said we do not want to go back the way we came. If there's any other way off this mountain, we're looking for it.
yes. Yes. And I really thinking back on that now, I don't know why I was so unnerved about being up there that night.
Yeah.
Because we had everything we needed.
Yeah.
If we were going to spend the night or if it was going to get dark, we had everything. It wasn't until we were coming down and I told Lisa, I said, "Oh, I feel it. Everybody's praying for us." We had just come down off of the ridge of up there on the mountain,
To the good bad road.
coming back down. Yes, and I got chills really bad on the back of my neck, like electricity. And I
Yeah.
told Lisa, I was like, "Oh, the ladies, they're praying for safety to come back down or whatever." And the next day we were at the museum, and this man came in. It was a Choctaw man, and I listened to this man talk for 3 hours about his lifelong experiences, and and he said he knew he knew when they were around because he could feel it, and that kind of piqued my interest, and I was like, well, what did it feel like? And he described the exact same feeling I had on the top of that mountain.
Is that right?
Like,
Yeah, but it was spooky up there in that area.
Well, I bet it was. Now, see, when
yeah,
you guys called me about that, I was thinking you were looking for a shortcut from like here across to Highway 62, where you didn't have to go all the way out to 259 or
We
get
were.
on one. And so,
yeah.
yeah, that's what I meant by don't go.
Google
But I didn't know you were going to go up the
Google was
mountain.
taking us.
Yeah.
Google told us
Yeah, Google showed us a road that went from Muse to Honubi,
Yeah.
or wasn't it, Lisa?
yeah, straight from you
Oh, and
across the mountain.
it said it was a public road. Yeah.
There
Well,
wasn't
I
a
wonder if there's a bridge
So
when you get to the Kiamichi River because you would have had to cross the
we
river
didn't make
too.
it to the river.
Yeah.
we
We
did
didn't
go
make it
across
to
the
the
first.
river.
We went across the first bridge, but then we got up to the
Yeah.
top of the mountain, and the road turned into not even a road. I don't even think it was big enough for a side by side to be riding up there. And we were,
No.
trying to fall off the side, so we were terrified. And
Yeah.
then we finally got stuck up there and couldn't get out. And that was, I think, what unnerved
I
us.
had to make a road.
Yeah, she literally had to make a road to get us out of there. But we had to come back down the same way we went up, and we were like, we should listen to John. We didn't listen to John. He knows this area.
Yeah.
Hang on, I want to record what you just said to play to everybody. Well, you know what's funny
I
though?
was
You
like,
get on these roads and they just kind of disappear. Some of them, like you said, and really, I just was kind of erring on the side of caution. I didn't want to send you down some road and have what happened happen. So, but if you
well,
want to if you bring it on yourself, that's you do. But look, you guys made it. You had an adventure, so it was a good time not to listen to
Yeah,
John.
But we started
we did, and
when we were up there. We started to call you, and we looked at each other, and we said, "Do we want to tell him we did it?" After he said, "Don't." We're like,
I was like, no, no, we're not calling him.
"Is there somebody else we can call?"
Well, yeah,
But luckily we
if
got
you
back
were,
down. It was just scary. It was a sketchy
yeah,
road.
well, if you
Luckily
were in
the
real trouble,
Toyota
yeah, if you were in real trouble,
the
call by all
Toyota did
means.
its
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, they were telling us that they couldn't get to us and that we were going to have to be helicoptered out, and we were like, "Oh no!"
And then pay the bill for the
I was like,
helicopter.
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not leaving my truck up here. Absolutely not.
but yeah, we should have listened to
Yeah.
you.
I,
Son.
wa-
Well, I think
I was coming back.
you know what though. Looking back on it now, you have an adventure to talk about, so it
We
was
did,
worth it.
and you know
You
what? If
know,
I had to put my life in Heather's hands
It
again,
was de-
she did a great job getting us off that. Even though we were up there for like
it's
five,
definitely a bonding experience.
yes, it was. We were up there for like 5.5 hours, and I think
were
we
you
only,
really?
yeah, and I think what Heather, we might have went 2 miles.
Yes.
It was pretty cold that weekend, wasn't it?
It
If
was
I remember.
12 we went 12 miles in 5.5 hours
That's it.
Wow.
total.
Yeah.
And that was 6 miles there
Yeah.
and 6 miles back.
Right.
So, yeah, we didn't do very
Yeah.
well. We never made it to our destination either. So,
Hey,
I
but
mean,
you
I was
anybody else
in
that's gone up there and gotten
double
back?
four low crawl.
huh?
I said, you know
Yeah.
anybody else has gotten up there and gotten back? So you got bragging rights.
I bet I bet nobody has.
Not in
Mm-mm.
a not in a truck like we were in, a vehicle.
Not in
You
a truck.
no. On four-wheeler maybe, yeah, probably,
Yeah.
but not in a big
Or,
four-wheel
or-
drive truck like Heather's that we were in. So, we were really looking
yeah.
around,
I had to I had to I had to pull trees out of the way. I mean,
rock.
there was another part of it. There was large, freshly broken trees
And we know what
at a
that
couple
means.
points. Yes.
Yeah, it was so
These
quiet.
are like 6-inch pine trees too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I moved rocks the size of ice chest. Uh, yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah, it was really quiet, it was really spooky up there, and I really wouldn't have wanted to spend the night up there. I really wouldn't because
Yeah.
And there's nothing up there.
except probably Bigfoot,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't wanna be stuck up there with no way to get out if
Yeah.
1 or
Well,
2
my
had
only concern, my biggest concern about being up there would, you know, yeah, you want to think Bigfoot. That's the thing that comes to your mind first. But it's the big cats and things like that. Like the
Yes.
big cats are what give me the creeps because you could walk right by one night, wouldn't even know it's there. So
yeah, or they'll jump down on you from up
yeah,
above, and yeah, I knew about the big cats, but
Yeah, this place hadn't seen a person in a good bit either.
no, because
Um
she lived several
and then
days
like I said, we had
up, yeah.
everything we could have possibly needed. Everything. There was even a chainsaw in the truck.
Yeah, we
oh
would've
really?
yeah.
I mean, we had food, we had water, we had gas. I had everything. We had firewood, what was left of it that made it up there and back down.
Yeah,
Um,
We passed a lot of it on the way
I
back down
mean,
that didn't make it.
but I'm not easily rattled at all, but I was very uncomfortable about having to stay up there. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
And
yeah,
I'm very, very experienced about, being out in the middle of nowhere. Now I'm a Louisiana girl. I'm not used to mountains and stuff.
Well,
But
I would be more comfortable in these mountains than I would be in one of your swamps down in Louisiana.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But I lived up
see,
there, so
I would have been at home on a lily pad out in the middle of the lake somewhere more than up on the top of that mountain.
well, I had to learn that when I was living up there in Mena, Arkansas for 12 years. I'd take off down a road and go off through a mud puddle, and I always knew there were rocks on the bottom, but moving back down here, I had to learn you do get stuck.
Yeah.
And I
Well, you
got
know,
sometimes.
go ahead,
I
finish
got
your
to go
note.
3 hours north to see a rock.
Oh, yeah. I gotta, it's funny.
I gotta go 3 hours north to see a natural rock anywhere.
I have to dig big rocks up every spring here because they push up from underground and my mower hits them. And so, yeah, before I can even start mowing every year, I have to dig up, at least 10 to 15 rocks that have pushed up. And they make good flower bed
Yeah.
borders, but they're big and heavy. And yeah. Well, it's funny. I thought about for a little bit, I entertained the idea of using Falk as a setting for Relics. But the kicker was Falk's kind of swampy, Honaby's hilly and mountainous, so I chose the mountains over the swamp.
Oh yeah, it's so much more beautiful there.
Yeah.
Well, swamp has its
Now I
charm, but
love the mountains.
I love the mountains. I want to. That's where I plan on retiring. Back up there in Talhena.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I'm in love with the mountains, but up there, I did not want to stay.
really,
Not on
Yeah.
top of that one. No,
Mm-mm.
yeah.
that one was spooky. It was really quiet and it felt funny. It felt.
It felt like we were eyes everywhere, is what it
Yeah,
felt like.
it was
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, it was. And the thought of spending a night there to me was like, no,
Well,
no.
Yeah.
it's funny. I don't get that creepy feeling in this area. Now, I did in Longpool, Arkansas. Every time I'm up there, I get it bad, and I didn't get it in Brown Springs, and supposedly that's a real hot, active area. And I didn't get it along Sabine River.
Brown Springs used to be, but it's not anymore. I've been to
Is that
Brown.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have.
Well, last time I was there was 2018. So,
Oh yeah, so it's yeah. I think I was there before then, and it used to be really a really good spot, but now it's just they have like c civilized it too much.
yeah, yeah. Well,
But
there,
go ahead.
there seems to be a lot of people hanging out there too now.
Yeah, too many people know about it, and when that's why I try to keep our areas secret because once somebody finds out about the hot spot, everybody wants to go there, and then that just kills it for you.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, you guys go out fairly often, don't you? I remember, I see, um, pretty regularly. I see pictures of you guys all together on Facebook.
Well, we were up this year, which was my second visit. We stayed 7 days in the Ouachita National Forest. I brought the side by side, and Lisa and I and the dog, we did we covered a lot of ground on the side by side.
Over 300
We had a blast.
yeah,
Yeah.
We also attended the conference there. Yeah.
yeah, at the museum in
We
town.
we rode over 300 and something miles.
327
Yeah. So
in the
we had
national
a good time.
we did. But yeah, we do
Yeah.
try to go out at when it normal times we go out at least once a month, sometimes more. But it's been summer for the last couple of months. It's like you walk out and you start melting. So we haven't been out.
Right.
We're about to go to Alabama next week. And we've been planning this thing for like a year now. And we haven't been able to go every time. And so this time
Yeah.
we're doing it. And it's a really good spot. I don't know if you remember Britta from our group, but she owns land there. It's been in her family for years, and they have had a lot of activity there. And even the people that have been watching the place while they've been away have talked about those things in the edge of the woods, that they leave them alone and they don't bother them. So, we're going to find out what's in the edge of the woods. And I think this is going to be really interesting. And I plan on going live while we're there. So it's going to be a live podcast, and I hope it's going to be really good.
Well, it ought to be. You guys, have you run across any evidence while you were up here or any of your other places?
Okay,
Had
Heather,
any encounters?
Oh,
tell him what you
should
saw.
we tell them about the last visit?
Yeah, and I
It's
want you
funny you should ask. I don't even know if I should
I want you to tell them
say
what
the location, but it's
you say it was somewhere around Hanobi area.
Yeah.
very close proximity to your home, John. I would say within a mile
Yes.
Yeah.
or two of
Yeah.
your house. But we were coming down a
Down
road,
the way.
and the road we were on happened to curve down as we were coming into a left-hand turn. So there was mountain on the left side,
Right.
and then there was a little embankment on the right, and then it went straight down the mountain. Um, it was me and Lisa and the dog, and as soon as I could see the left side of the road in that curve, I saw brush movement, and it shot across the road, up it and over that little embankment, and was gone. I mean, um, but what I saw immediately when I saw it, it looked like a chimpanzee, but it was reddish brown and
Yeah.
tan. Now, you know how have you ever seen a monkey or a chimpanzee run,
Right. Yeah.
where they keep all their limbs tucked,
And a
Yes.
where they keep all their limbs tucked together and they're on all fours?
Yeah.
It was going, so at the angle, it was going away from me, and that's all I could see was its back, and that's exactly what it looked like. The size, maybe 60 pounds, reddish brown with light tan between its shoulders, and this was the middle of the day. This was 12:30,
and
sun high in the sky,
longer
and I
shiny.
could see the sun glinting off of his hair, and the hair was about 4 to 6 inches long, and it was very shiny and clean, not matted. Um, yeah.
And you
So,
Well, that's
and I
cool.
said, when I saw it, I
she
let off the gas. I didn't hit the brakes. My mouth was wide open, and I was like,
she said,
Lisa
"What is
was like,
that?"
what? And I said, what was that? And
Or
she was digging in their bag for something, looking down.
missed it.
Of course, me and the dog are both like sitting there with their mouths open and looking at the side of the road. And as I eased by, she was like, well, let's get out and look. And I sat there for a minute, and immediately I just had this feeling like whatever I saw was not a full grown,
No, but she said it
you
was
know,
about
like,
4 foot tall on all fours. So that's pretty big, really.
yes.
Yeah.
But I felt like I was looking back up to where it came from, like there's a mother somewhere, whatever that was, and I'm not going to chase it, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
So we kept on.
that's discernment, and you have it for a reason. So that was good thinking. You know.
Hmm.
I did look
Um.
sitting there, turn around. And Heather's going, no.
I just said, no. I
Well, you
just
know
said no
the
and just kept on.
But that's because I didn't even think about the aspect of mom being around, and she was smart enough to think of that.
yeah. Well, you know the one I saw
Yeah, because
here.
my
I
brain
I
was rolling a mile a minute.
I
Yeah.
guess they run funny here because the one I saw, nobody. When I tell people what I saw, they're like, "No, that can't be." And I'm like, "Well, yeah." I saw one in August of 2018. In fact, it was 2 days after I came back from my last trip to Brown Springs, and I was walking outside. I was outside looking at Mars. It was really prominent that summer. And I came around my wife's car and I set off the motion detector, turns the lights on in the carport. And I was looking up, lights went on in the carport, and my eyes saw movement. And I owned like a little acre across the road from us, and I saw this thing just booking from left to right, and it went about 80 yards. I had it in view, and it was big. It wasn't like massive, but at first I was like, well, it's only about 6 foot tall. But I
Oh,
remember going the next day out there and looking at the trees and stuff was around, so it was at least 7 foot tall. But it never pumped its arms while it was running, and I've
wow.
never seen anything move that fast. And it ran on two legs and never pumped its arms, and
Huh.
it just gave it the weirdest. It looked like it was surfing. It was like the upper
Yeah.
body stayed rigid and just the legs were moving. And the
Well,
funny thing, you mentioned the trees. You found the trees blocking the road.
yes.
Um, my sister
Uh,
passed away later that year in December, and my wife and I, we left here about 4 in the morning. We were going to Arkansas to her funeral, and we're going up the mountain toward Tallahena, and it was really foggy. I could only do like 5 to 10 miles an hour. That's the worst fog I'd ever seen up there. And we come around the bend. You know where that real sharp U is on the road between Tallahena and Honaby on that mountain? There's like a really big horseshoe turn. Well, about a half mile from it, it looked, I just saw this thing standing like nearly on the road, and the fog was so thick, it like it took 2 steps back and it was gone. And I wasn't sure I saw it. And I asked my wife, I said, "Did you see that?" And she said, "See what?" And I said, "Well, no." I said, I may have just saw Sasquatch. It sure looked like one, but I can't say for sure. But funny thing, then I know exactly where that spot is, and there's a side by side 4-wheeler trail going up the mountain there. And earlier this spring, I was going down the mountain. I looked over at that spot because I was thinking about what I saw there, and there's a tree broken and bent over, blocking that trail up the thing. So it's funny when you mentioned your broken trees, it reminded me of that.
Yeah. Doesn't like coming up there, apparently.
Yeah.
But you know, the way you just described that,
Yeah.
I've heard
And
that before from a lot of people that say it's almost like they're moonwalking or something.
Yeah, there was just, it did pump its arms. The last glimpse I got of it, it pumped its arms because it leapt over something. It leapt over a pile of rocks and logs that are out there, and it pumped its arms when it did that. But previous to that, the arms were, it just looked like a surfer's stance. It's kind of had its arms out and in front of it a little bit.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
I could tell this thing was even though it was going away and all I could see was its back and all its limbs were tucked in front of it away from me. But when
Yeah,
it went up the little embankment before it went like straight away from the mountain, you could see the vegetation, like it was grabbing vegetation as it went. The way
yeah,
it
it helped
moved, the
pull
way the
itself up there.
vegetation was moving
Yeah,
as it went over that. Yeah.
well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was interesting, yes.
Just an interesting trip. We had a couple other
I
little
mean,
things
the detail of the hair was pretty telling.
Well, that's cool that you had a broad daylight sighting, so you could get color and this and that. Mine was actually, it was dark, but it
Hmm.
was silhouetted. There's a Choctaw church across from the property there, and they have the big vapor lights, and it was silhouetted against that, and I could see it. And I couldn't make out any color, but I just got this sense that it was gray. I don't know, maybe it was light reflecting off the hair or something. I'm not sure, but
again.
I
Uh-huh.
basically got a silhouette more than anything. So
It could have been gray or white. My mother had a
Well,
shiny white or gray one once, so they were out there.
it was very close to there, John, that we saw that.
really, well,
Very close to that area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you may have been down by,
Yep.
the house from Siege Honabi is like 2 miles from here in a straight line. I think if you drive, it's probably closer to 4 because of the roads. But
I'm gonna
um,
need you to show me where that is one day.
yeah, okay,
I want to locate that spot just for my own curiosity because when I was on Bigfootville, um,
yeah,
they had my story, but behind me, you know how they do the showing a scenery as you're talking. They were showing the scenery of that house, and I kind of got in trouble for trespassing, and I'd never been there before. So I just kind of want to know where the house is now.
yeah. Well, I'll be glad to show you. It's it's just a house.
Right. Yeah.
It's got the story behind it's pretty cool, and I think it's different from when they lived there. Um,
Yeah.
back in early 2000, I think it got damaged by a tornado, and they did a little rebuilding on it. And
Yeah. Nothing
so
stays the same very long. So I'm sure
no,
it's,
it doesn't. It
yeah.
doesn't at all.
Yeah. And then Bigfoot don't stay in one area forever either. So, once it
No,
flies
it's
down,
funny. Like there for a while, there was a lot of stuff happening around here, and it's been quiet for a couple of years now. You just kind of forget about it.
well, that was
Um,
just last, what, April, Heather, when we were up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just
Yeah,
last
for the conference.
when she had her sighting.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
there's
matter of fact, we skipped that. That was we skipped the Sunday conference part of it, and that's what we were doing.
Oh, is that right?
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
We were
yeah.
what conference were you guys at?
at the Tallahena
At Tanya's.
Oh, okay. Well, wasn't that May? That was late May, I
it might
think.
have been
Wasn't it?
May. I might
Yeah.
be wrong. April, May.
Yeah, May.
Yeah,
May.
May. Yeah, that's when it was. It was May this
We
year.
stayed up there. We camped the entire week. 7, like we
So
were up there for like 7 days
Uh-huh.
before the conference. So
yeah,
yeah,
so we had time to. I don't think it was our last day up there though that you finally
we
had
had
your.
all kind of. We had other interesting things happen. I mean, that was the
We
most
did.
exciting. But at camp, we had interesting things happen.
Yeah, we had some
Yeah.
sounds and then
Oh,
rocks stacked up while we were sleeping. That
Oh,
was kind of
really?
yeah.
Huh.
And we had heard a big thump that
yeah.
night. We thought maybe it was a I guess we thought it was a big limb that fell out of a tree or something, we didn't know what it was.
We
But Heather looked at me and she said, she said, "Shine the light behind me," because it was behind her. And when I shined it, I didn't see anything. But then we decided to retreat to our tents that for the night. And because that sounded big, whatever it was, and we're like, we don't want to
Yeah.
touch it. So we went to our tents.
Yeah, it was either a giant dead limb that I didn't hear break or a rock
Right.
And
dropped straight down,
I think it was a
and
rock.
I felt it.
Yeah, it thumped. You could feel the thump. Yeah. But that
Yeah, and
next morning, I found a
I was
rock.
like, this is the latest we've stayed up, Lisa. I think we should go to bed.
But that next morning, there was a rock stack right out like 10 foot behind my tent out toward the road. And it
Oh,
hadn't been,
no kidding.
yeah, it hadn't been there the day before because we had looked
Yep.
all around that area.
hmm
And it was a really big rock on the bottom. And
Yeah,
then,
we rode by there like twice every day.
yeah. And then, a medium sized rock in the middle. The one on the bottom was too heavy for both of us to lift. It was a big rock. It was a big flat rock. The one in the middle was a heavy rock, but we either one of us could have picked it up. And then there was a
Right.
little bitty, tiny, like golf ball sized rock on the top. And
Ah.
when I kicked the bottom rock with my foot, it wasn't sitting, on a flat spot. It was over the hangover of the edge of the rut of the road, and it
Yeah.
just fell down. And that's when I noticed that the grass under it wasn't dead. And I said, I knew this rock stack had not been here yesterday, and this is proof because there's no indention under this rock. But you could see right over to the left about 2 feet where the medium-sized rock had been moved from and stuck on top of the big rock because you could put that rock back in there perfectly.
I'll be darned.
So it was pretty cool waking up finding that. We were like, but that was a little too close to our
And so our camp consisted. So our camp it was just me, and Lisa and my little dog.
yeah.
And
So
so that's what was interesting about those 3 rocks.
yeah,
Yeah.
she made the connection to 3 because the 2 rocks and then the little bitty one on top for the
You
little
all
dog.
got a rock. Okay. Which one of you lived in Mena? Was it Heather or Lisa? Who
That
lived
was
in Mena?
me, Lisa. Yeah.
Lisa, did you ever go to the board Camp Crystal Mine while you were there?
I went past it. I never actually went to it. I didn't even
Uh-huh.
know about it when I was living there. I found out about it after I'd already moved to Oklahoma. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'd heard about it. And I also heard about the pyramids that are out there, but I've never seen them either.
I haven't found the pyramids. I didn't know anything about them.
There are some pyramids that are there around the board camp area. I can't remember where exactly they are. I'd have to look it up again. But
Mm-hmm.
I found out about those after I had already moved away too. So I never got to see those.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it'd
Huh.
be an interesting thing
Well,
to
don't feel bad. You're talking to a guy who was stationed in Arizona for 9 years and never saw the Grand Canyon. So
I don't
I can
feel
see
so
not making it to the crystal mine.
the Grand Canyon's a lot bigger, so I don't feel so bad.
Yeah, but it was way up in the other corner.
And you know what's bad is I lived in Nunley, which was right next to board camp, so I didn't have any excuses
Oh,
except
really?
yeah,
Yeah.
except that I didn't know, you know?
Well, I know. I went there and spent the night there last year, and it was pretty interesting. But the most interesting thing I found was the longest track line I've ever seen of Bigfoot type. Because usually, if I find what looks to be a Bigfoot track, it's been weird. There's like one, maybe
Oh,
two,
yeah.
and you're like, well, what happened here? Where's the rest of it? And this one, there was a good track line going down this steep hill, and that's the only time I've seen anything like that was at the Crystal Mine there.
Yeah, and you know, it's so hard to find tracks up there in that
Yes,
area.
it
It's
really
all
is.
rocky ground. You just when I was looking around that area, I used to go out to the Shady Lake area a lot, and you just, unless you found a mud hole or, something, you couldn't
Right.
find tracks. They're
Yeah.
just
Well, yeah, there's only been one track I've found around, and I didn't find it. Actually, my wife found it a couple years ago, about 4 miles from here, and there was just one track, but it was just happened to be where there was some soft sand, and
yeah.
it had been raining or whatever. So, um, and no, I take that back. I ran it. I found a track up on the mountain about 10 miles to my south from here. So I did find one up there as well. Came across it by accident. I wasn't looking, and just there it was.
Yeah, that's what always happens. You end up just coming across them somewhere.
Yeah, and it's funny how people will say, "Well,
We've
this and
we've
that. Why
found
didn't
some
you get a
pretty good
picture?"
ones.
Yeah,
Uh,
we have found some good ones looking for them, but
Yeah,
they're in places where,
yes.
the Louisiana ground, and you can see
right.
pretty much anywhere if there's been something there, you know? You can see what all kinds of animals have been through here, but you can't do that up there, but down here, we've been pretty lucky with it.
Hmm. Yeah, matter of fact, the first time I met up with all these ladies and went out, we found a pretty impressive trackway. Uh, and we didn't realize at the time how good it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But that's really kind of
yeah. They're kind
that
of rare when
that
well, they
was
are for
that was
me. I've
really
only seen
impressive.
one, like I say, and so are
yeah.
you guys coming this year to the Honaby Festival or?
I'm thinking about it. I'm not
I
sure yet.
don't
Yeah,
know yet.
I know that Shane Church and Brian Hoolan are
yeah,
supposed
yeah. They're going to be speaking.
and there are
I was on their show a couple of years ago, and they're a lot of fun. They
they are
crack me up.
they are a lot of fun. We have a competition with them right now because we're going to Alabama, and they were supposed to be going somewhere in Colorado, and, we had a bet with them that if we got more action, then they have to wear our shirts on their show, and if they got more actions, we have to wear theirs, so
Well, that's a good deal. That-
yeah, so we're gonna see who wins that, but,
Okay, but you can't embellish, right?
no, no embellishment, no, but we wouldn't do that anyway because we're real
Yeah,
serious
I know.
what we do.
Lisa, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Your background. Did you do that with a green screen? And
Yes. Well,
yeah,
let me take that back. It is a green screen, but it is a green screen that is built into StreamYard.
okay.
Yeah, so I just put my logo up on StreamYard and made a green screen out of it. I do plan on
Well, I'm
getting
gonna try. I'm gonna try that because I hate having to drag stuff around, So, but I like that. Looks really good. Your background. That's a
well,
good
see,
job.
I'm in my storeroom, so, I've got boxes and stuff stacked up in here, and I'm like, "I don't like that being in the background," so I found a way to stick this up there, but I do plan on getting a green screen later, but this works. I
It
don't have
does. It looks
arms,
good.
but
Well, I know, and I tried it one time using one, and I didn't like it but I'm gonna. I think you can get them. They're like $35 on Amazon. You can get a
yeah.
green screen, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
go ahead and get
my
one.
son's got one. He used to do a podcast before he had a new baby, and now little Jace takes up all of his time, so
Well, they do that.
I may go steal his. He's not using it.
Well, there you go.
I may have to fight him to get out the door with it though, because he plans on going back to his podcast later. but I learned a lot of stuff
I
from.
panicked when I saw Lisa on screen. I wasn't ready. I was like,
Well,
girl, I
yeah,
don't want my picture on
I asked
there.
Lisa earlier
I'm
because
not ready for that.
I looked at one of your other shows, the one on the oh, what is that, uh Bright Star, or the what is that about the false UFO
Oh,
event? Um, I can't think of the name of it.
yeah,
Anyway, it was episode 4, and there was no video, and
Blue.
so that's why I texted you and said, "Hey, do we have to be on camera?" And you're like, "No." I was like, "Okay, good. I don't have to drag all that stuff out." So
Oh, Project Bluebeam. That's the
yeah,
one.
there you go, Project Bluebeam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the last one I did. I did a
Well,
deep
it's
dive on
funny.
that.
It's funny. I should remember the name because some people, a corporation in the book I'm writing right now, is getting accused of making a Project Blue Beam when they actually didn't. So, um, yeah. So I should
Before
have
we started
remembered that name.
into it, I didn't even know it was book. I was like, "Where's this come from?" And then I found out, oh, it's a book somebody, wrote. So, now I understand where it comes from and everything. I just, every now and then I'll get an
Hmm.
idea and I'll go, I'm going to look into this for myself because I don't like
Yeah,
listening.
it's interesting. It
Yeah,
is.
it
Yeah.
is. It is interesting. And they, like I said, they do have the technology to pull it off if they want.
Definitely
Oh
find some
yeah. Well,
wormholes.
look at all the. They pull off a lot of stuff on us pretty easy.
Oh, I know. COVID's coming back. Look
Oh,
out.
I hear it. I
Yeah,
know. It's cool how you can
there's
plan a pandemic, isn't
I
it?
know, right? It's going to be worse. But how the heck do you know?
Yeah.
fascinating, really.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating.
Yeah. And as viruses go, they're supposed to be less, um, have less of an impact, but affect more people as they, you know,
Right.
develop into a new virus strain. But apparently, this one's not doing that. It's going against all the laws of physics. It's going to be worse, and everybody's going to get it. Like, well, how do y'all know
Hmm.
Well,
that?
I'm already seeing people like commercials on YouTube, and people are wearing masks. And I'm like, yep, here it comes.
My
It's
husband
coming.
came in the other day, and he said, "There's
I've
people."
seen people this week wearing
Yeah,
masks.
that's what he was
Have
saying. He
you?
said, "There's people out there wearing masks," and I'm like, "Oh no, don't start that again." I'm just going to
Yeah,
rebel. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I rebelled last time. I'll rebel this time, and
yeah,
I
you
rebelled a
know,
little bit last time, but I
yeah.
rebel fully this time. It's just not happening. They're
no,
not doing it again.
Yeah, I ain't playing no more.
No,
yeah,
I'm still not taking their
I ain't
vaccine.
playing the game no more.
Mm-mm.
no.
Nope.
'Cause those who sell the panic sell the pill.
There
Like
you
I
go.
told everybody though on my last podcast, critical thinking. Look at the details, put it all together, and you can figure out what's going on.
Well, when they spread fear, when you get fear spread,
I know.
people just succumb to it.
Yeah,
But,
it's a
Yep.
powerful thing. Fear is very powerful, and it will
Hmm.
lead you to places that you really didn't want to go. So I know that.
yeah, yeah.
I just choose not to fear it. But like I
That's
said,
right.
God's in charge of my life and not the government. So
Well, there
That's
you go.
right.
And that's the
Yep.
and that's the way to operate. I
Exactly.
take a little heat on my books, the adult series, because you really can't tell on the first book, but as you get into the second, third book, you can see, I write these things with a Christian viewpoint, and
well,
some
yeah.
people don't like it. I'm like,
Well,
well, you're free to read
Well,
what
oh
yeah.
well.
So
you're free to read something else, but
yeah,
I like the fact that you write it on a Christian
I
viewpoint.
heard it. Yeah, heard of the quiet majority. The
yeah,
quiet majority.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
But that's
yeah,
because we all act like Christians and we don't go out there and jump on everybody. And
Hmm.
it's because of our Christianism. That's not how
well,
we act.
it's funny,
Right.
yeah, because they all, the narrative is we're intolerant and this and that, and it's like, well, that's
That's
coming from
us
people who
talk.
talk, I'm not intolerant,
No,
but I believe what I believe, and if you want to believe what you believe, that's fine. I don't have, I don't have a problem with it, and but boy, woo, especially when you get into
no.
paranormal stuff, people will come unglued on you. Oh, you're
Well, listen,
wrong. It's blah blah blah, and it's like, well, the Bible is very very paranormal.
It is very
And we're
supernatural.
surrounded by the
Yeah.
paranormal and creation. So
The whole
it
idea
all
of
just
the
kind of
Bible,
fits
Mhm.
together if you give your brain a chance to,
yeah, the
dwell
whole
on it a little
story
bit.
of the Bible from beginning
Right.
to end is a
Yeah.
God's deal. It's supernatural, the whole thing, and people just look past
I firmly
Well,
believe that.
a lot of it's been washed
Actual.
out or washed down because,
that.
you know, there's faith and there's religion. There's belief and there's religion. And religion has hurt Christianity, because there have been groups that try to control people through their religion and things like that.
And that's
And
the
yes,
church
that
trying
that
to control.
that turns people off. And I
Mhm.
think that's what people they'll zero in on that part of it. And it's like if you want me to leave your church, use the word doctrine. As soon as I hear doctrine, I'm gone.
Or you know
you
what?
know,
What got
Right.
me in church once was
Yeah.
because I stopped going for a few Sundays, and the preacher came to my home and wanted to know why I wasn't coming to church. And I was like, "Well, that's between me and God. That is really not any of his
yeah.
business, you know?" And I was like, "Okay, I will never go back to your church again. If you're gonna come to my house because I didn't come, that's between me and God, you know? I
Well,
don't
did you cut him a check?
know." He was wanting because there were 7 of us. It was me and my husband, we had 5 kids, and
Wow. Yeah.
he was wanting the donation, that we were given every Sunday, and he
Right.
wasn't anymore. And
Yeah.
that's what I used to hate about churches the most. I was like, church now I know that church is not in a building. It is in your heart.
Right.
That's
Well,
what
we found this little church. It's Cowboy Church,
oh,
and
yeah,
they don't put a plate in front of you. There's a little box at the back of the room. If you want to give, you give.
go.
There's and I love our pastor, young man, and he's just nailing it. And it's about faith, it's about Jesus, about the word. It's not about religion. And
Yeah.
and it took a long time to find that little church.
Well,
It took four
I'm
and a
down.
half years.
I have
Yeah, that sounds like a gym.
I have a
Yeah.
podcast I'm doing in the future called "Everything Your Church Taught You About the Bible Is Wrong,"
Well, there
and
you go.
I'm going to be doing that one with the man who can explain it.
Uh-huh.
He's so good at it, and I really think I need my children to hear it because they were raised in churches that taught you, well, this is sinful and that's sinful and you have to do this, and all of that stuff is it,
Control.
it's a control to get the congregation to do what they want. And the Bible was not meant to be read that way. It is a story of God. It's the story of Jesus. It's not
Right.
really the story of us. It is the story of God and the story of Jesus. And that's the way people should read it as.
Well, it's a funny thing. On my first date with my wife, she's a Christian, and every morning she dives into the old Torah in the Bible, and she studies ancient Hebrew, and she does a lot of she does a lot of what is the word? I can't even think of the word. I write books. I got a lot of information.
I know.
um, she translates
Okay, there you
ancient
go.
Hebrew, and man, there's some interesting stuff, and that's what's led my belief and my salvation. When I first met her, I was a heathen, and when I started Relics, I was a heathen. And funny thing, our first date, she was asking about a book I was writing, and it took me a while to get a date, and I didn't want to tell her it was a Bigfoot book. I was kind of, you know, him hawing around it, and finally I told her, okay, it's a novel, it's about Bigfoot, but it's fiction. And she said, huh? She goes, I don't know this, but I always thought if those things are real, they might have something to do with Nephilim. I don't know. And I'm like, what's Nephilim? And she,
And
she
see,
said,
that's the thing. Nobody who's even been taught the Bible knows the word Nephilim, and it's in
yeah,
there. It's in
yes,
there.
yeah.
Mhm.
And
Be
but it
crazy.
was funny. So when I read about
Yep.
that, and then I started enhancing my reading and going, and I figured out, you know, well, the flood wasn't just because man had sinned. I mean, if that was that, we'd all be, dog stroking,
Right.
dog paddling. It was
Right.
to get rid of the Nephilim strain. And when he told Joshua and
Right.
Caleb,
I don't know how
wipe
many
out these tribes, it
years.
was
I
a
don't
Nephilim strain. And once I knew that, all these other lights started coming on, and
know why.
yeah.
I've
So
so many people say, "Well, I
Yep.
don't like Bible because God's so mean in there. He kills all the
Yeah.
people with the flood, and he's so vengeful. And I'm like, you're not getting what that really is. He's not killing people. He's killing Nephilim.
Yes, exactly.
Killing those who
And,
were trying to control us and corrupt us to save us. People don't get that.
well, they're not taught it, you know. And
That's
if
why
they are taught it, they're saying, well, the it was the sons of Adam and the sons of Seth and the daughters of Adam, or daughters of Cain, sons of Cain, whatever.
yeah,
It's like, no, it was the fallen angels. And once you get that, it all
right,
starts making sense. So
right. And so
yeah,
many people just read over that and don't pay attention to what they're reading. And it specifically says the fallen ones,
yes, it does.
procreated with the seed of man, the woman. It's so clear as day, and people just nobody seems to know what it is. But they're like,
Well, that's like you guys go out hunting Bigfoot. I don't anymore. Um, now I do watch for UFOs and stuff, but even there, I'm thinking that's
That's
angel
a long
technology.
shot on the hunting part.
Is it? Well, it always is. I mean,
That's a
to
long
me,
shot on
if
the.
you want to see Bigfoot,
We
don't
just
think
try
about
to put ourselves out there.
that's what you got
yeah,
to do. Yeah,
Yeah, we just put ourselves out there. Yeah.
yeah. I don't think there's any magic to going out and hunting Bigfoot. I don't think when you're out actively hunting, I don't think you'll
No.
encounter it. I think it's when it's a last thing on your mind. You're building a campfire. You're doing something. You're walking out to look at Mars. You know,
yeah,
you're stuck on a mountain. Somebody
Mars,
told you not to get
Yeah.
on,
yeah,
but that's when those things happen. You know, when you least expect it. I have never had anything paranormal happen when it was on my mind ever.
I
You
know,
know.
right? Yeah. But
No.
I did the other night. I was sitting out in my backyard and I've never seen a real UFO. And you were talking about your fascination with UFOs. I was sitting out there and I saw this. I glanced over and saw this really bright star. And I was like, where is that star come? I've never seen that star before. And it was so big and bright. And then I noticed it started moving and it had been sitting in the same spot for, a good 5 minutes. And then here it goes, it starts moving and it flew over my house and it made a circle and then it parked itself back down a little ways from my house, back on the edge of the Air Force Base, which is where it was to start with. But it went further down and set itself back on the edge of the Air Force Base and sat there for another good 30 minutes before just kind of diminishing out. And
Yeah.
it was pulsating. And as it flew over my house, I could see that it had these three white lights behind it that were like going in sequence across the back of it, like blink, blink,
Uh
blink,
huh.
blink, blink. And it was pretty cool, but the light itself, the big light was like an orangish yellow color.
Okay. Well, UFO I saw out here
I've seen
a couple of
something
years ago was
similar like
orange.
that, and I thought it was a drone that I was looking
What Air
at
Force
a
base are
dis-
you close to? I'm sorry, Heather. I didn't mean to jump on
Sorry.
you.
No, that's cool.
Barksdale Air Force Base.
Barksdale. Okay.
They're in my backyard. So
Well,
I
I've been seeing things here earlier in the summer, and I thought they were satellites. Because you know how a satellite looks as it's coming,
Mhm.
but
right.
then they would stop, and then I couldn't see them, and then I'd see them again, and they were moving the opposite direction, but they stayed parked in this one small spot in the sky, and
Yeah.
I was the only one seeing them, and I would tell people about it, and they're like, "Yeah, whatever." And then
Mhm.
about a couple of months ago, we were down at some friend's house, and my friend's wife looked up and saw one doing that. So I think it was 5 to 7 adults there, and we were all watching it do this. And now I haven't seen it again since I had some other witnesses. Haven't seen it again.
Well,
Wow.
this was the first time I've lived here for over 6 years now, and I've sit out back all the time with my dogs at night, and
Yeah,
I'm a night person. I've never seen anything like that, and I didn't think about the fact that it could be a drone. I just know that it was sitting still, and I was like, aircraft don't
yeah.
do that. So I guess it could have been a drone. I've never seen a
Well,
drone.
it
This
depends
was.
on how that depends on how high it was too. You
It was
know.
probably it was at least 1,000 feet in the air, and it was pretty good sized. It was big, and like I said, when I saw it fly over the house, I could see that there was something black, there.
Right.
like black metal or something, but, I couldn't see hardly anything for the big
Mhm.
big brightness that was, like, in front of it, and it was just so bright. You
Well,
couldn't see
I
it coming at
had
you.
a sighting a couple of years ago
This
that
thing
actually.
that I saw,
Go ahead.
sorry, John, I'm lagging, so I didn't
That's
mean
all
to
right.
interrupt you. This thing that I saw, it like hovered and floated like a drone would, kind of in one place and stayed there. And it definitely had different orangish, reddish lights on it. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
it was
this
weird.
this one I saw a couple of years ago. I actually called MUFON and reported it, and the lady said, "Well, there was an Airbus, well, I forget what model Airbus she said in that area, but it was north of you. You couldn't have seen that." I said, "No, this was to my south." And she's like, "Well, are you sure?" And I was like, until the lady, I have been an airplane nut since I was 2 years old. I spent all those years in the air. I look at airplanes every night. I try to figure it based on their lights. I can figure out what they are. I can
Yeah,
tell an airplane by what sound the engines make. So,
I was
or I
too,
used to. I
he's like
probably
that.
can't now. And I was like, this is no airplane.
Yeah,
Yeah, my husband's like that now. He keeps telling me, "If you see it again, come get me up," I'm
Yeah,
like, "It's 4:30 in the
that was
morning."
the other thing that made me feel like it was a drone. I could hear a humming. I got it on video. I mean, it's a horrible video, but you can definitely
Thing,
hear it
I mean,
and
if I
see what I'm talking about.
I'm sorry, Heather. I know you're lagging a little. I interrupted you. But this thing made very little noise. Even when it flew over my house, it was very faint noise that I could hear, but it was very faint. So maybe it was a drone. I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't loud. What I heard wasn't loud either,
no.
but it was like a little faint humming, like you
Yeah.
would think a drone would make.
Well, after the year we've had with the UFO sightings and
I
stuff,
know.
um, yeah, it's a good time to keep looking up
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stay focused on those kind of things.
Well,
Doesn't hurt at all.
Well,
my friend
last time
I'm
last
sorry.
time we all met up, we saw the Starlink, I'm pretty sure, Lisa.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty
Last
sure
time
it was.
we were yeah.
Yeah, it flew over here a couple of weeks ago, and then I think it flew over again this morning because somebody in Tallahena posted a picture of it, and I guess it was right as the sun was coming up, and they still had a good picture of it. So that's kind of cool. That's a cool
Yeah,
looking thing to see,
it
actually.
is. It's pretty interesting looking, but
Mhm.
I have a friend, Kirk, he told me to, report that to MUFON and just see what happened. But, he had a sighting. He was on my show earlier. He had a sighting of that triangle, and now that I've looked at some of the aircraft that we're not officially supposed to have, quote, unquote, officially,
Yeah,
what is it? The,
Mhm.
TR
TR1.
13B or something like that, TR-13B. It's a triangle, and it's just like what he saw with the plasma thing in the middle that he saw and everything, and I sent him that the other day, and he was like, "Oh, wow."
Well, it was funny. I guess it was 88, 87, 88. I was stationed in Tucson, and we'd been hearing about the stealth fighter and the stealth bomber for years, and by that point I'd been in about 10 years. And all of a sudden one day they called the whole squadron down to the base theater, and we're all sitting down, and they bring up this video introducing the stealth fighter and the stealth bomber. It's like, okay, so there it is. We know it's there, but you know, and come to find out, there was guys out in the squadron with me that had been crew chiefs on those things, but they couldn't talk about it until the information was released. And they're like, "Yeah, I was out there. I worked on it for 2 years back when
Yeah,
the project was black and stuff." So yeah, even your average service people don't know what's out there. If they're not part of the operation, they may not know at
there's
all.
there's some real weird stuff that does go on, I know that. I got an uncle that was in the Air Force for years, top secret clearance, Area 51. He won't talk about anything, but he just hints to you that, "Yep, there's stuff."
Yeah,
About it. You won't get anything out of him, though. I'm pretty sure he's signed a non-disclosure agreement, and he can't talk about it, and he won't, but boy, I would love to pick his brain.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny. Like Bob Lazar, nobody, he went through a lot of ridicule and stuff, and
And
Now, you know,
met
I
a
think I
man,
posted a meme of him saying, "I told you so."
yeah. And there's
Yeah.
a man I met that I totally trust. He is a family member of one of our members. He said he was on a plane with Bob Lazar before and knows that he worked there.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, and I
Mhm.
trust him completely, and if he said
Yep.
Bob Lazar was there, Bob Lazar was there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, there you go.
there you go. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Hmm.
there's a lot of stuff that's hidden from us.
Mhm.
They have the reasons for it, and it's not what most people think it is. It's not to protect us. It's not to, protect the secrets from the other enemies. I'm sure it's all about the new world order that have planned.
Well,
They planned from the 60s, you know.
yeah, they may have been planning sooner. I don't know. I just know it's. I mean, I'm not fearful of what's going on, but if you can't see it, it's like you're choosing not to.
Right.
Yeah.
There's too
And I
much
know they
time.
like to say conspiracy theory and tinfoil hat
Right.
and
Yeah.
all that, but
I
it's
want
like,
tinfoil hat. Don't talk about them. I'm trying to get them on my
You
show.
can only be right so many times
Right.
before it's no longer a theory, you know.
Right.
yeah,
And there's been so many conspiracies, as they call them, that have been true, you know,
right.
and
Mhm.
you look back at all those
Yeah.
and well, conspiracies come from
Well, it's pretty blatant in our faces now.
right. People don't just
Yeah.
make up stuff. It comes from somewhere. Just like, all the stories of Bigfoot and, all the way back in the days, people are like, oh, those don't exist. That's just old folks' tales and legends. Folks' tales and legends came from somewhere.
Yeah, and when you've got politicians that have basically have mini strokes standing at the podium because they're so old, but they will not leave because they're in power and they're enriching themselves. You know,
Oh my gosh, yes, dementia.
oh my. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not even just not even Joe Biden. Yeah, he's obvious, but Mitch McConnell. They're on both sides of the aisle.
I
There's a
know.
lot of people that
They're
have no business up there, but
oh yeah.
we don't have term limits and we have no control over these people. And they're trying to control, micromanage our lives, and they're just running amok, doing anything they want.
Right. And they keep spewing out things to keep our
Pretty
attention.
sure they're wearing diapers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they keep us
Yeah.
at each other's throats.
Yeah.
They promote that, everybody's a victim, this and that.
Divide
Um,
and conquer.
I was watching the U.S. Open earlier, and they had a commercial about, to some kind of thing about liberating women's tennis, and I'm thinking, good Lord, women's tennis rocks. I mean,
I'm like,
you
yeah,
know,
they're liberated,
well,
but liberated.
Yeah.
since when are they a victim? I mean, they're awesome.
No.
Women's tennis is awesome, and I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
it's just the constant drumbeat of you're a victim, you're a victim, and you're a victim. You're all victims. Yeah, we are of the government.
Well, the
know.
thing that got me the most the other day was I learned that they
Right.
had banned transgender women who used to be men or men who used to be women. Let me put that right. Men who used to be women that play on the women teams. There's been big controversy over, the swim teams and the soccer teams and stuff and basketball where you've got the people that used to be another gender wanting to play with the women. But the other day I learned that they have banned transgenders from being in chess tournaments.
There you are. Am I back or was I gone?
And I'm like, "Are you there?"
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. People are
Yeah, I started. Hey, look at that. Started talking about the elites and I got taken out.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it messed up my phone
Imagine.
the other day.
is
But,
that is that you, big brother?
you
I'm
start
going to get my helmet.
Hey,
to
where's that tinfoil I was talking about earlier?
Yeah.
No, I was saying that, there's all this controversy over them playing on soccer and basketball and all that, and they've been trying to ban that, but then they turn around and they just ban these transgender women from playing in women's chess games.
You mean those drag queens that want to play
And I'm like,
women's
you're
sports?
you're gonna let them play basketball and
Yes.
soccer, but you're not gonna let them play chess. Does that make any sense at all? And
No.
then like, well, they think differently from men, and I'm like, they're
Okay, well, you know what? There
differently.
you go. They're going to ban them from chess because your natural women, your natural born women, will
So
probably beat them. And we can't have that narrative going. It's okay for them to
if they
be
think
250 pounds muscled up and beat to death some little 130-pound woman in wrestling, but don't
yeah,
let her beat you in chess. No, that
right,
won't
but
pass the
if
narrative.
they think differently from women, then they are different from women. Period.
There you go.
They're
And I
different.
hope we didn't get your show canceled tonight.
Oh no, you know what? I have decided that if I put something on YouTube, it's going to be something that they don't care about. Otherwise, I'm going to keep it on my podcasts,
Yeah.
and they can't limit what I talk about that way because
Well,
I'm not,
that's good. Yeah.
shut up by anybody for
Well,
anything.
yeah. The thought just occurred to me, like, John, are you doing this lady's show any good? So,
Truth to be out.
rule one: if I'm your podcast guest, please don't ask my opinion.
Dang, John, you killed the whole podcast. No,
Yeah,
no,
I posted on Facebook today that I was going to be on your podcast, and trying to get some of my
I
book
thought
fans
that.
maybe to listen, and here I am trying my darndest to kill it. So sorry about that.
Trying to run all your fans off. Really,
This is why my face isn't on there.
my show is completely about the truth. I don't care what it is. If it's the truth, it's the truth. You can't change the truth. You know, you can't make it what you want it to be. The truth is
That's
the
right.
truth. And that's what I want to get out there for everybody. People can
And,
make
and
their own.
by God, we're supposed to be able to do this
Yes,
Yes,
freely.
we are. We absolutely are. You're right.
right.
You're right.
And that's what I stand for, the truth. I don't care what
Yeah.
anybody says, but all right, we'll bring this to an end. I think we've been talking for
Yeah.
over an hour now. So tell them again where they can get your books.
They are at www.relicsbook.com, or you can find me on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart. All you got to be able to do is spell my last name. Good luck.
Good luck with that one. Saying it's hard enough.
Well, I didn't
Yeah, when I
write
was
it.
in the military, I
I
learned
haven't
real
written a
quick that
book, and
to answer
you,
to ban anything. Tell me about your book again.
Mine,
Yeah,
it will be out on it's going to be on Amazon Kindle and at Amazon, and then I'm going to have it on my website whenever it gets finished printing. I'm going to bring it to, I'm supposed to be speaking, I think, at Tanya's next um festival.
in
And
November.
is it in November? I can't even remember what
Oh
it is.
no, that's the paranormal in November. Next Bigfoot festival, I
It's
guess, will be
May.
May again.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be
Yeah.
then, so I'm going to bring it up then. So right now it's called A Product of Bigfoot, and it's an autobiography. But
Well, I'll buy a copy. I'll be there, and I'll buy a copy.
I'll sign you a copy because you signed me once.
Well, I appreciate it.
But I've really enjoyed speaking with you, and I want to let everybody else know if you want to come on the show and share anything, talk about anything, as long as it's the truth, we're open to it. And you can contact me via my website, cryptidsunlimitedpodcast.com, or you can email me at cryptidsunlimited@gmail.com, and I will get back to you. But other than that, I've really enjoyed this conversation, John. I sure appreciate you coming on.
Well, I really appreciate you
yay.
having me on, and best of luck. And Heather, it was nice talking with you too. And you ladies have a good night. And thank you very much.
You too, John. And Heather, I'm
All
going to
right, John. Good night.
so we'll be seeing each other pretty soon in Alabama. So,
Yay.
yeah, everybody take care and God bless you.
Okay.
Good
Good night.
night.
All right. Bye bye.